Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Can you guys all hear me? Can I just get a thumbs up or something from somebody?
Yeah, we
Can
can hear you.
say again?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, basically today is going to be a review of things that you should have learned in IT 109. Okay, so I'm going to go over um, some of that information. I'll talk a little bit about the assignments, make sure that we've covered all of the things that you'll need in order to be able to do both the lab and the assignment, okay? So I'm gonna start by sharing my terminal here. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'm gonna start out just by going straight to the Python shell, okay? So I'm just gonna go to Python 3, all right? So the first thing that I wanna talk about is just basic variables, okay? So in Python, all you need to do is you need to come up with a name. So I could use A, I could use blah, I could use whatever. Usually you want the variable to describe something, and then I can assign it a value, okay? So I can start off with easy things like numbers, A equals 5, B equals 10, okay? Then if I print out A, it's 5, B is 10, okay? I can do A plus B, and I get 15, okay? I can do A minus B. I can do all kinds of math and things on these numbers, okay? So that's for number variables. Okay, we've also got string variables, okay? So I can do C equals, and for string variables, I'm gonna put it in quotes. So I can do C is, this is a string, D equals, this is another string, okay? And you see that those are, okay? Now, if I did C plus D, interestingly enough, you see that that actually concatenates the strings together, okay? So string arithmetic is, and of course, if I try to do C minus D, then I get this error because string subtraction isn't a thing, okay? So that's just basic strings, okay? Basic numbers, okay? There's also Boolean data types, right? So I could do G equals true with a capital T, okay? Notice that it has to be capital T. If I tried to just do G equals true with a lowercase t, then I get an error, okay? Same thing, I can make G equal to false as well, okay? And so you use true and falses a lot of times, in loops or in conditionals, if something is true, then do something else. All right, so those are good things to know. All right, so does anybody have any questions about just the basic numbers and strings and those kinds of data types? We all remember that from 109? Okay, let me bring up the chat to make sure that nobody's... let's see, chat. Okay, so nobody's saying anything, fine. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about lists, okay? And in other programming languages, lists are called arrays, okay? And so basically in Python, what you do is just like declaring a variable, I need to come up with a name, okay? So I can use my list or whatever I want to call it. I can use A if I wanted to, all right? And then in this case, I'm going to use the square brackets, okay? So if I just do my list equals square brackets, then I'm going to just get an empty list. Okay, so there's nothing in there. Okay, if I know what I want to put into my list, I can do it like this. I use the square brackets and then I put in each item that I want separated by commas. So let's, in this case, say I want to have a list of dates. So I'll do 1920, 1945, 1981, and 2005. Okay, so there's my list. Okay, now the interesting thing about a list is that I can loop through the list, I can sort the list, I can do all kinds of things to a list. All right, so this is one of the fundamental data structures in computer programming. Okay, every programming language has lists. Most other languages call them arrays. Okay, but it essentially is the same thing. Okay, so I could do this. I can do my list dot reverse. Okay, and now if I print out my list, see, it's in a completely different order. Okay, I could do my list dot sort. Okay, and now it's sorted numerically, 1920, 1945. Okay. All right, so and if you want to see all the different things you can do, you can just type in help and then my list here at the prompt. And this tells you, okay, this is a list. Here's all the different things that you can do. Ignore these ones with double underscores for a second. Okay, we'll actually talk about those in this class, but here's where the different methods start. So you can append, you can clear, you can copy, count, okay, extend, index, insert, pop, remove. There's all these different things that you can do to this list, and it's all built in, okay? So that's kind of nice. All right. Likewise, my lists do not necessarily have to be just numbers, okay? I could make a list of strings. So I'll do my list 2, and I could do orange, okay? Now remember, these are strings, so I need to put them in quotes, okay? And this goes back to what I was saying earlier. You guys should be pulling up your Python every single day and practicing this stuff, okay? So you remember things like strings need to be in quotes, and I use square braces, okay? Somebody asked a question here in the chat. Let me see what it says. It says, when you do my list equals empty angle brackets, that state the list. Okay, yeah, so let me go back to that real quick. All
Sorry,
right?
I was trying to type in it. That initializes the list, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
So exactly. So if I do my list equals and I just do empty brackets, then all I've said is I now have a list that just doesn't at the moment contain anything in it. Okay. But yes, it would initialize this variable. Now, there's nothing stopping me from just reinitializing this variable to something else, right? See, I could do that. So I started out initializing it to an empty list, and then I repurpose it and use it as just holding a number. I can do that. Okay. It's a bad practice to do that because you're just going to confuse yourself, but you can do that. Okay. But yeah, so to answer your question, yes, all that does is just basically declares my list as, hey, this is going to be a list and it's currently empty. Okay. All right. So, my list 2. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a list of strings. Okay. So again, using my square bracket. Okay. And I can do apple, orange, banana, and kiwi, okay? All right, and so this works exactly the same way as the other one, okay? All right, oops, my list 2. All right, so my list 2 has these 4 elements in them, okay? I can reverse it, okay, and then you see that it's just kiwis now at the front, followed by banana, orange, and apple. Okay, I can sort it. Okay. And you see that it's sorted alphabetically. So now it's apple, banana, kiwi, orange, because K comes before O. Okay. And yeah, so there's lots of things. Now, if I want, let's suppose that I wanted to add something to the end of the list. Okay. Well, there's a append method that you can use. So I do my list2.append. And maybe I want to append on a cherry. Okay. So I do that. And now when I look at my list, see how cherry's now on the end here? Okay. So that's what the append does. All right. And the syntax is it's going to be your variable, my list2 dot, so period, and then append, the word append, followed by, whatever it is you want to append. Now, these data types don't all have to be the same in Python, okay? In most other programming languages, they do need to be the same, but I could do this. I could do my list2.append, and I'll just put in a number, 82, okay? And I could put in I'll put in true, okay? All of those things that will allow you to do. So you can see that if my list2, it's got some strings here, all these fruits, then it's got a number, and then it's got this Boolean value, okay? Now, in general, it's a kind of a bad idea to do that. I just wanted to point out that it's possible, okay, to do that. All right, now, I want to make a distinction between a list and a tuple. Okay, in Python, excuse me, they have these things called tuples, all right? And they work similarly to lists, but there are also some important differences, okay? So I'm going to do my tuple, and this time, instead of using square brackets, I'm going to just use normal parentheses like that, okay? And so I'm going to do my tuple equals, and I'm going to say apple, banana, okay? So there's my tuple, and you see that it looks very similar to the list. The only difference is the parentheses shape, okay? And I could do my my tuple, or I could do count my tuple. Okay, oops, maybe it's my tuple.count. Okay, well, never mind. Forget count for now. I have to look up how to actually do that. But the point is like if I try to append things to this, watch this. If I do my tuple.append orange, okay, see how it gives me an error? It says tuple object has no attribute append. So the difference between a tuple and a list is that these tuples are immutable, which means that they can't change at all, okay? Once you have it like this, once I've declared this tuple, as I did right here, where apple and banana, my tuple, apple, banana, okay, I'm stuck with it, all right? I can't, now I can still loop through it and I can still do a lot of the same things that I can do to a list, but I can't change it, okay? And so we're not really gonna use tuples very much at all in this class. The only reason why I'm pointing it out is because you might see this pop up from time to time. And if you do, don't be afraid of it. They work kind of the same as lists. Just know that you can't necessarily modify them, okay? All right. So now the next thing that I wanted to cover is dictionaries, okay? Dictionaries have lots of different names. They're sometimes called hash tables. They're sometimes called maps. They're sometimes called associative arrays, okay? And so a dictionary has a slightly different syntax than a list, okay? So I'm going to create a variable called myDict, okay? And in here, what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use the curly braces, okay? So the curly braces indicates that you have a dictionary, all right? And what a dictionary is, oh, you know, actually, yeah, okay, I'll get back to that in a second. But dictionaries are different than lists. Lists is kind of like an ordered set of values. You know, you have like, you know, like in the example I was doing earlier, apple is kind of in the first position and then bananas in the next position, etc. So there's kind of an order implied by lists, okay? Dictionaries are different in that they have what's called a key value kind of construct, okay? Just like an actual dictionary has, okay? If you were to go to a textbook, okay, in the back of the textbook, there's something called an index, okay? And an index has like a word followed by a page number. So that's kind of an example of a key value. The key is the word, and then the value is, you know, the page number of where you can find that word. All right, so let me give you a quick example. So we have myDict equals, and I'm gonna say, all right, so the key here, I'm gonna make a dictionary that associates people's names to salaries, okay? So we're gonna say Bob, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in a colon, and Bob's salary will say is 32,000, okay? All right, and then I'm gonna separate each entry with a comma, so then we'll say Fred's salary is 78,000. Okay, and then we'll have Sarah's salary at 123,000. Okay, so this is my key value kind of construct. This is my dictionary. Okay, so so you see now, why is this useful? Okay, wait, somebody asked the question. In a dict, the value can have a list within it, correct? Yes, okay. We're not gonna, right at this point right now, I'm not gonna get too in detail of the complexities, but I'll cover that very briefly at the end of the lecture today. The key is usually gonna be a string, although it doesn't have to be. The key can actually be pretty much anything, and the value can pretty much be anything, okay? So I could actually have as my value a list, okay? Or I could have my value as another dictionary, or I could have my value be an object. We haven't learned about objects yet, but we will, okay? And same thing for all these other things, okay? But for now, we're trying to keep things simple, okay? But yes, so to answer the question, in a dict, the value can have a list within it. Yes, absolutely. The values for these things can be just about anything, okay? And so the interesting thing about this is that in my list, and I didn't go over this earlier, I should have. In a list, if I wanted to refer to an individual item, okay, so if I go back to my list 2, all right, if I just do my list 2, I get the whole list, but maybe I only want the orange part of that, okay? So for a list, I would do my list 2, and then I have to specify with these square brackets, I have to specify a position of the item that I want. So in the case of orange, that's item 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if I do my list 2, 3, then I get orange. All right. My list 2, 0 is the first item. Okay, all lists in pretty much every programming language are 0 based rather than 1 based. So the first item in the list is this 0. Okay. And if I were to do my list 1, okay, I get banana. My list 2 would be kiwi, 3, 4, 5, okay, and so on. And if I try to do my list, like if I tried to do my list 10, it would say, oh, your list isn't that long, okay? Now with dictionaries, okay, basically what I do is instead of indicating a number where I'm indicating position, all right, I just indicate the key, all right? So if I do my dict Bob, okay, then I get the value associated with that key. All right, do you see that? And so I can do my dict Sarah, oops. Okay, I get 123,000. What would happen if I tried to use my dict and then I put one that's not in there, like Larry? Okay, it would say, oh, I'm giving you an error because I don't think there is a key in your dictionary called Larry. All I see in the dictionary is Bob, Fred, and Sarah. Okay, so when you try and do Larry, you know, I don't know what that is. Okay. Now for lists, if I want to add new things to the list, remember all I have to do is append. Okay. For dictionaries, it's a little bit different. Okay. For dictionary, all I have to do is I just need to come up with a new key like this, Larry, and then just assign it a value. Okay. So I can just do my dict Larry like this. And then I'm going to say, all right, Larry's salary is 54,000. Okay. And that just worked. And so now if I print out my dict, you see that now in addition to Bob, Fred, and Sarah, now I have a Larry key with the 54,000 value here. Okay. And so I can just keep doing this. I can add in, let's go ahead and add in Susan. Let's say she makes a lot of money. There we go. Okay. And so now you see that that's how you can add new items to your dictionary. Okay. So you'll need to know that for the homework assignment. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. So now I want to talk about, I guess, checking for things in lists and dictionaries and looping through lists and dictionaries. Okay. So if I wanted to loop through a list, we'll start with lists. Okay. First thing I want to do is I want to check to see if something is in a list. Okay. So there's my list: apple, banana, kiwi, orange, cherry, 82, and true. Okay. So I can do this. I can do tests to see whether a certain item is in my list. Okay. So I'm going to do the string orange in, I use the word in my list 2. Okay. Is orange in my list 2? Yes. So it returns true. All right. Is apple in my list 2? Yes, it returns true. All right. Now, what about Peter in my list 2? Okay. Is Peter in there? Peter is not in there. So it returns false. okay? All right, so this is a way that where you can check to see if a specific thing is in a list, right? So if I had a whole list of names and I said, you know, tell me whether or not Bob is in this list, this is how you could do it, okay? Now, the other thing that you can do with lists is you can iterate through them one item at a time, okay? And so the way that you do that, there's actually lots of ways to do it. In Python, there's tons of ways to do things, okay? But I'm just kind of trying to review some of the highlights. But the easiest way to do it is with what's called a for loop, okay? So I can say for, all right, and the syntax is the word for, and then I need to come up with another variable name, okay? I could use X, I could use I is a pretty popular one. And then I do in my list 2 and then a colon. All right, this syntax is super important. Make sure you know the syntax. And again, this is why you need to be writing Python code every day so you get used to this syntax. Okay, if when we get to a test and I ask a question like, hey, write a little loop that will go through a list and do something, and you don't get this syntax right, then I'll know that you weren't actually doing very much Python programming. Okay, so if I do 4x in my list 2, all right, it's going to give me these 3 dots indicating that my expression isn't done. So I need to indent over, and then I'll just do print x like this. Okay, and so now if I hit enter, see how it went through and printed one item at a time from my list: apple, banana, kiwi, orange, cherry, 82, and true. Okay, all right. So that is like the easiest way to go ahead and loop through a list. Now, there's lots of other ways that you can loop through lists, and I think Professor Schumann's slides that are located in the course content area of the Blackboard site has some more ways that you can loop through lists. Okay, but this is, you know, more than adequate for what we need to do. All right. Now with dictionaries, okay, let me get back the dictionary. Okay, so here we have this dictionary of salaries. Okay, I can do a similar thing for checking to see whether or not something is in the dictionary. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying Bob in my dict. Okay, is Bob in the dictionary? Yes, Bob is in the dictionary, so it returns true. All right, what about Leroy in my dict? Okay, is Leroy in there? No. Okay, now here's the $1 million question. What about 32,000? Is 32,000 in the dictionary? Okay, no. All right, but wait a second. You have to be saying, but 32,000 is in the dictionary. There it is. It's right after Bob's name. It's Bob 32,000. Okay, when we do this something in a dictionary, all we're checking is the keys. Okay, that's all we're checking. So 32,000, yeah, it's in the dictionary, but it's not one of the keys. The only thing that it's going to search is it's going to search Bob, Fred, Sarah, Larry. It's not going to search any of these numbers. Okay, so you need to know that when you're looking for things inside of a dictionary, you're only looking at the keys. Did somebody ask a question? I thought I heard sound. If you asked a question, I couldn't hear you. So for dictionary, we need quote, quote, and list we need. Okay, Muhammad, I don't understand your question. You say, so for dictionary, we need double quotes, and list we need single quotes? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, I apologize.
Okay, actually, no, you can use single quotes or double quotes interchangeably in Python. Okay, so you see, if I do Bob with single quotes in my dict, okay, it's still there. If I use double quotes, okay, it's there. All right, and same thing goes for the list, right? If I did Apple with double quotes in my list 2, it's there. And if I do the single quotes for Apple, okay, also there. Okay. Somebody says, I believe, quote, quote, quote for, or sorry, single quote, single quote, single quote for multi-line. Yes, that's correct. Okay. If you want to do a multi-line string, then you can use 3 single quotes at the front and the end, and then you can put in all kinds of returns and things if you want to, but we're not really going to need that for right now in this class. But yeah, that's a good point out. Okay. All right, so now if I want to be able to loop through the dictionary, okay, I do it almost exactly the same way that I loop through a list. Okay, so you'll recall that for the list, I just did for I in my list 2 colon, and then I did print I. All right, so I do the same thing here for I in my dict colon, and now this time, watch what happens. Okay. See how it just printed out the keys and not the values? Okay. If I want to be able to print out the values, then I have to do it like this. For I in my dict. Okay. And then I'm going to do print I. And then I'm also going to print my dict I like that. Okay. And so then I get both the key, which is the person's name, Bob, Fred, Sarah, Larry, and then my dict I is the value, the 32,000. Okay, which is exactly what we thought, because remember how we pointed out that if we want to access Bob's salary, then we would do it like this. Okay, well, since I is going to be Bob the first time through the loop, then my dict sub Bob is just the 32,000. So that's kind of should be basically intuitive. Okay, how that works. So at any rate, you know, when you get a chance, if you're not doing it right now, get on your Python terminal or get in your Python IDE and practice this stuff that I'm doing right here. Okay, practice creating lists, creating dictionaries, looping through them. Okay. All right. Now, if I wanted to, this is a question I want somebody to answer in the chat or you know, answer out loud, however you want to do it. Okay. If I was to say, I want to loop through the dictionary and I want to print out the key and value, but only if the salary is over 100,000, how would I do that?
Would you do for would you do for key comma val in my dict, and then the 2 dots, then after that, then you do an
Okay,
if.
so wait, hold on. So you're saying for key comma val in my dict. Okay.
Yes, and then you do an if statement.
Okay, if. What's my if statement?
I forgot what the other part was.
The criteria is only if the salary is over 100,000.
Then it would be val greater than 100,000, I believe. 1000, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Colon.
Yeah.
Print key val like that, right? Okay, does that work? Uh-oh, what happened?
Don't you have to add a else statement, and then if it doesn't equal that, you have to add a 1 to that key to go to the next one?
No, that's a good guess though. Okay, so the issue is the way that we have this this for loop. Okay, now this would work if we did something like this. If we did for key val in my dict.items like that, then you could do it this way, I think. I don't actually know. Let's see.
No, I believe it's that way. Yeah, it's with dot.
Okay, so if you do it with this syntax for key comma val in my dict.items, okay, items, interestingly enough, returns a tuple. Okay, so it returns both the key and the value, and that's why you're able to do this. If you use it in this form up here, what we did at the top, okay, you can't put 2 variables in here because when you do the in my dict, it's only going to return the key. Okay, so what you would have to do is you'd have to do for key in my dict, okay, And then you'd have to say if my dict sub key, which is actually the value, is greater than 100,000, print key my dict key like this. Okay. So either way you want to do it is fine, but that's, you know, in Python, there are a million different ways to do things. Okay. And there's another thing called a list comprehension that we could have used. I'm not going to really get into that at this point. We'll be getting to those later in the class. But and they're actually in Schumann's lecture if you want to look up those. Just kind of a shorthand way of doing a similar kind of a thing. Okay, but yeah, so this is basically what you would do is, so we still have our loop, but we're just putting inside the loop this conditional to check something. And then if it meets the criteria, we go ahead and print that out. Okay, so that is basically what you need to know in terms of lists and dictionaries for this first assignment. Now, there's obviously other things you need to know about lists and dictionaries in order to succeed in this class, but for the first lab and the first assignment, I believe this should be sufficient. Okay. The other things that you need to know for the first assignment is you need to know how to do basic file output, okay? And you need to know how to capture typed in user input, okay? So does anybody, we'll start with user input. Does anybody know how to capture user input?
Using the input command.
Using the input command?
So you said
Okay,
the
so what would the syntax be?
So input equals, and then
Input equals?
no, I think don't you have to start with a variable equal input and then between
yeah,
the
sorry.
parentheses and then type whatever message you want to
Yep.
prompt out?
Yep, it's in open. Okay, yeah. So x equals input, and then you put it in the parentheses of what you want. So it was
Okay.
open in front of me.
Please type in some stuff. Okay, like that, right? And so it's going to immediately prompt me to type in some stuff. There's my stuff. Okay, and now if I look in X, you see that X is set to the string of whatever it was I typed in. Okay, now I'm going to ask another question. Suppose that I want somebody to enter in a number so that I can do some math on the number. Okay, how do I do that?
You can do a string before you do the input. Like you do x equals string and then put your input within
Like
it.
this?
I mean, not string.
Int.
Int.
Yeah.
Okay, so do input. Please enter a number. Okay, and now if I enter in 82, then X is the number 82 rather than the string 82. So now I can do math with it, okay? Yes, absolutely. I could also do that in 2 steps, right? I could just do X equals input. Please enter a number. Okay, so then 90, and then I could do int X, and now I have my number that way, okay? It's the exact same thing, just in multiple steps, okay? Right, so what if I wanted to prompt somebody to enter in a number forever? How would I do that?
Would you do a loop for that?
Okay, yep. So what kind of loop should I use?
A while loop.
What?
Okay, a while loop would do the job. So how would I set that up?
While true.
Okay, while true, so this is going to go forever. Okay, then I have to indent, because remember, indenting matters in Python. While true, X equals input. Please enter a number. Okay, now if I do this, this is going to go forever. Okay, so how do I get this to actually quit?
So you can make a if and else statements, where you put an else and that quits it.
Okay.
Like if somebody enters exit, it exits the program.
Okay, so let's try that. So if I do while true, okay, X equals input, please enter a number. if x equals quit, then what do?
Break.
Break? Okay, let's see. 8, 9, 10, 11. Absolutely. Okay. So that's a way that you can do that. Okay. And I believe either the lab or the homework assignment asks you to do this, to continually prompt the user to do something. And so you'll have to tell the user, hey, like if you want to, you'll have to give them some kind of a user-friendly message telling them that like, hey, like in order to stop entering numbers, you know, type in -99 or type in quit or something like that. Okay. All right, good. So that is input. Now, does anybody know how to do file output?
With like the open and open in like in open, and then you put the file name and then like a W so you can write to it.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So we're going to first have a variable. Okay, so we'll do F in this case equals open. And then we'll make a file called test.txt. Okay, and then we do comma, and we're going to put in W. That means I'm going to write to the file. Okay. All right. So now I have this file here. All right. And now how do I actually put stuff into the file?
F.write.
Yeah, f.write. So I do f.write. Hello. Okay, what if I want to put in a carriage return, like a new line? How do I do that?
//backslash
\n. Okay, that gives me a new line. Now, write actually returns the number of bytes written to the file, so that's why it printed out this 6 here. But if I was actually doing this in a program and not in the shell, then you wouldn't see the 6. So Newman /n, okay. This is the end. Okay, and now how do I actually indicate to Python that I'm finished writing to the file?
F.close.
F.close, absolutely. Okay, and so if I were to exit out of my shell here, okay, you will see that now there is this file test.txt, and if I open it up, sure enough, it printed out hello Newman, and this is the end, just like I told it to. Okay, so that is file input and output. All right, so at this point, we're 40 minutes in. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've gone over today or anything that I have asked you to do for either the lab or the homework assignment? No questions? That is fantastic. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I want to go over. If not, then we might be done a little bit early. Let me see. Program control. Oh, creating functions. We didn't talk about that. We need to talk about creating functions. Okay, so now I am going to stay out of my shell. I'm going to actually create a new Python file. Okay, so if I want to write a function in Python, how do I do it? Okay, somebody says def in the chat. Yep. All right, so the syntax is def, okay? Then I need to give my function a name, okay? So my func, I'll call it my function. All right. And now at this point, I could just do a colon and be done. All right. But this function doesn't do anything useful. Somebody said, is the screen frozen? I can't see your screen. Huh. Hold on, let me see.
I think it's just on the wrong screen.
Terminal is frozen, cam is good. Okay, hold on. Why Why is this not? All right, hold on. Let me try this. All right, did it come back?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool. All right, so here is an example of a function that does not accept any arguments. Okay. And so I just do def my function. Now, this is actually bad programming practice, even in Python. Okay, if you're not going to accept any arguments, you really should put in empty parentheses like that, so that it's very, very clear that my function is actually a function. Okay, now Python will let you get away with not doing that, but don't do that. Okay, so if you're going to have a function that doesn't accept arguments, then do it like this. All right, if I want my function to accept arguments, okay, then what I need to do is I need to put in the names of variables that the function will accept. Okay, so maybe I accept num1 and num2 or something like that. Okay, and then I can use those variables inside this function. All right, so in this case, let's go ahead and do print num1 plus num2. All right. And so now if I want to call this function, I would do my function 2, and then I could pass in like 5 and 6. All right. And so what that means is when I call this function, 5 would become num1 and 6 would become num2, and then I would print out the addition of those. Okay. And so if I did my function 2 and I did Bob and Smith, okay, let's go ahead and see what happens when I run these. So I'm going to save this, and then over here in my other, oh man. Okay, guess I'll have to just do it this way. Python test.py. Okay, see how I got 11 for the first example, because 5 plus 6 is 11, and then Bob Smith for the second one. Okay. All right, so so that's a function. Now, what about functions returning things? Okay, do we know anything about that?
So you can like add return and then put the variable that you put, so it saves it, but doesn't print it, so you can call to it later.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So functions can actually return some kind of a value if I want to, okay? So in this case, what I can do is here, I will copy this. All right, I'll call this my function 3. And in this case, rather than just print this, we'll say return num1 plus num2. Okay. And so now if I were to do my function 3, and we'll do 10 and 20. Okay. This isn't actually going to print anything. Okay, so here, let me actually comment out these lines right here. Okay, so if I do my function 3, 10, and 20, all right, it's going to go up here to my function 3. Num1 is going to become 10. Num2 is going to become 20. This is going to return the value 30, but I haven't done anything with 30. I haven't printed it. I haven't stored it. I haven't done anything with it. So if I were to run this program, it's not going to actually, it's going to appear that it doesn't do anything, right? So if I go Python 3 test.py, look, nothing happened. Okay, and you're like, wait a second, but I thought I actually, okay, so you need to actually do something. So I could set this, I could do result equals, okay, and then I could print result. All right, so if I did that, then it actually prints something out. Then you can see something actually happened. Okay, so I believe one of I don't remember if it's or the homework assignment asks you to actually write a function that accepts a value. Okay, now the last thing that I want to talk about with regards to functions is scope. Okay, so what would happen if in this example where I have my function 3 num1 num2, okay, suppose that I write out here, before I call my function 3, I do num1 equals 100, okay? if I do num1 equals 100, all right, and then I pass this value, num1, into my function, all right, what is going to be the value of num1 right here inside of my function 3?
Num1.
Yeah, what's the value going to be?
I don't think it's gonna be 100 because 100 isn't it a global variable and it doesn't get passed to the function unless you put it in there.
Okay, so you're not sure?
Not 100%. No.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a thing where you need to be very, very careful. Okay. This num1 out here, all right, is actually a global variable. So any of these functions can see num1. Okay. But then because I'm sloppy, I just went ahead and declared another variable called num1, but this num1 is local only to this function. Okay. So now the num1 in here is what's gonna happen is when I call my function 3, I'm gonna pass in the value of 100. It's gonna be set in here. I'm gonna return this answer, but any kind of changes that I make to num1 won't stick, okay? Num1, when it comes back out here to this line right here, num1 will be back to 100, okay? So you have to be really careful. In general, it's a good idea to try to not name your variables the same thing like this so that you don't get confused. Programmers do it all the time anyway, and I have no idea why they do that, because invariably what it does is it just leads to confusion, and then your program doesn't behave the way that you want it to, okay? But you can actually do this, and this will work. We haven't done anything really nefarious with num1 to try and mess up its value inside the function here. Okay, but the point is that you need to be very, very cognizant of variable scope. Okay, so so just make sure that, you know, when you're coming up with argument names for your functions, don't use the same argument names that you used for global variables or variables that appeared outside, or all you're going to do is just confuse yourself. Okay. So instead, what we could do in order to make this better is, you know, maybe we could put a G here to indicate that this is a global variable. All right. So we have G num1 and G num1. And now there's no question as to what's happening. So now I set G num1 equal to 100. I pass in that value, which is 100. And so now when I'm manipulating num1, I know that I'm only messing with the num1 that's local to this function. And whatever I do to num1 in here will have absolutely no effect on my G underscore num1 global variable. Okay? All right. Does everybody understand that? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I think, hold on, let me go back to my notes here really quick and see if there's anything else. We did the file processing, we did the functions. Let's see, we did the control statements a little bit. We did the if then kind of. Okay, all right, yeah. So I think that's basically all I want to go over tonight. Now, what I would recommend that you do is get started. If you haven't already, get started on those homeworks, assignments, and programming labs, okay? If there's something that you don't think you understand, go back and review this lecture. You know, I'll make the link available to the recording. I think all of the stuff that you need in order to be able to do those assignments should be covered in there, okay? And then there's also all of the Schumann lectures that are posted in the course content area on Blackboard, okay? So you can look at those, and Schumann's lectures go into a lot more detail. They cover a lot more stuff than what I was able to get through in an hour today, okay? But there's all kinds of information there, and he actually does a bunch of examples, okay? Gives a bunch of demos where he's kind of coding sort of the same way that I was doing here to sort of demonstrate different features of Python, okay? All right, so that's all I have for today. You're welcome to stick around for the next 10 minutes to ask questions if you want. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Tuesday, for those of you who can make it. And I'll say, don't forget to get your lab and your assignment in by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. That's it. I'm gonna stay on here for a little while to see if anybody asks any questions. Okay, somebody asks, can I run that last program just to see the result? Yeah, sure. Hold on. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so, all right, so this program right here has these three functions. We set gnum equal to 100. Then, so we expect that 120 will go into this function. We expect that this program should return 120 if we've done it correctly. So let's go ahead and save this. All right. And Python 3 test.py. And sure enough, it prints out 120, exactly what we thought. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, all right, yep, so that's it. So does anybody else have any other questions? Yep, sure, no problem.
I have a quick question about stating inside a dictionary. Do we just make separate variables for that?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's for stating what's inside a dictionary. Do we do separate variables for that within that function for the dictionary to state like keys?
What do you mean stating keys? I'm not sure what I mean. Can you give me an example?
Give me one more.
What's that? Are you there? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
I'm sorry. It's for basically if I want. Well, it involves the homework, but I think I'll get it by myself. But I just want to know how to basically, if there's variables, well, if there's keys in the dictionary and they're two separate keys, right? Let's say one's a cat, one's a dog, and you want the names for them.
Okay.
How do you state that? Like, how do you basically?
So if I were to do, all right, so let's say that I have a dictionary, my dict equals, okay, and then we have cat, meowser, and dog, Fido, okay? All right, so what's your question? Hello? How to state one as key and one as value. Okay, well, so like we were talking about earlier, let me exit out of this and go back to the Python terminal. Okay, so if I go here, all right, and I say my dict equals, all right, and I have cat, meowser, okay, and I have dog, Fido, okay. If I were to just do my dict, okay, you can see that the key is always the thing on the left side of the colon, and then the value is always the thing on the right side. If you just want to get like the keys, okay, I can do my dict.keys, okay, and then this gives me cat and dog. And if I do list my dict.keys, okay, then it actually just returns the keys, which are cat and dog, as a list, okay. Likewise, I can do my dict.values, okay, and see how it has this weird dict values thing. But again, if I want to turn that into a list, I just enclose it in list like this. Okay. And then that just gives me the values. Okay. So does that kind of answer your question?
It does actually. Thank you.
Okay.
But for a question, well, for the homework, I just want to ask, for the like problem for E, do we want all the like information we get from A through D into E, or just D?
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me look at the homework assignment because I have no idea what you're talking about. Let's see, DE. Okay, output all of the results in the dictionary. Okay, so all the dictionary is going to have is it's going to have video games and years. Okay, so initially it has 5 video games. So the key is going to be the video game and the value is going to be the year, right? So there's going to be 5 of those. And then I'm going to ask the user, hey, add more video games. Okay, so if the user adds 10 more video games, then there's going to be a total of 15 video games with 15 years. Okay, so when I say output all the results, that would mean I would want the name of the video game and the year dumped into the text file. Does that make sense?
Oh, just like the new 5 video games in years that you already put into the dictionary, correct? By typing it in.
As well as whatever the user put in, right?
Okay, yeah, correct.
So
Okay.
if the user doesn't put in any, then I should have a list of 5 video games in 5 years. If the user
Okay.
adds in 100 more, then there should be 105 items in my text file.
Okay. How many would, like, when we're trying to write something to the text file, how many would you like an example for our homework?
I mean, at least a few.
Let's
you
few.
know,
Okay, all right.
couple. You know, what I would do is tomorrow there's like a lab session. So if you want to be 100% sure, since Maddie is the one who grades these, ask her how many she wants to see.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay, somebody says, when it's written to the text, can it look like exactly like the code, but in the text? No. Okay, Ashley, that's an excellent question. So Ashley's question is, when it's written to the text, can it look like exactly the code? Okay, no. And in fact, Maddie sent out an email where she explained the lab, and she explicitly said, do not do that. You have to put in a loop and display it without all of that extra garbage punctuation. Okay, so do not do it that way. Okay, because otherwise all you could do is you could just write out the dictionary without doing any kind of a loop, and that's lazy, and that's the kind of thing that would make the TA angry.
And we need like something to stop the loop as well for a code, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you're gonna write to the file after you, well, I mean, I guess you could write to the file as the user is typing things in if you want to. But in either case, you're correct. You will need some way of stopping the loop. The user needs to be able to indicate that, hey, I don't want to do, I'm finished typing in video games. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and somebody asked, does our homework require a checker so that the games entered won't be duplicated? No, at this point, we're just trying to review IT 109. We don't need to make this program super complicated. My goal is to not make this super difficult. It's to just get your mind thinking Python again. And so no, you don't need to go through the trouble of implementing some kind of a checker to see whether or not the game is already in there. Okay, so if they enter in the same game multiple times, it'll just probably just overwrite it or something. Okay. All right. Okay. Again, I'll continue answering questions as long as people have them. Otherwise, you guys are free to go. It's 8 o'clock, so we've been at this for an hour.
Professor, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just didn't see it written anywhere, but I'm assuming you want all the code we're turning in to be commented, right? Like,
yes, you should absolutely put comments in the code. Again, if you're not sure about the level of comments that are required, please ask the TA, because she's the one who grades those. And I'm not even sure how strict she is on those on comments or not.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I didn't see it written anywhere in the instructions. So.
Yeah. So when in doubt, ask the TA. Don't assume that just because it's not written anywhere, you can do that, which sounds kind of backwards and unfair. But just when in doubt, check with somebody. Either ask me or ask the TA. In this case, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure she's going to want comments.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, well, it's getting pretty quiet. So I guess I've seen everybody drop out now. Okay, great. All right, I think we're done. Thanks. See you guys next week.